Welcome to the Knights of Lorcana, where people go head to head once a week to be able to prove that they are the best of the best. And today we got a thriller coming your way where we see Yesterday2morrow versus Ricky. And this is sure to be an exciting one. Why is that exactly? Oh, well, no reason in particular. We just got a Ruby Amethyst versus Sapphire Steel. And this is going to be a really interesting one just to be able to see how those decks are going to be going and who is going to be able to reign supreme. Now, of course, Yesterday2morrow has been in the league for the duration of these 2 weeks and has been able to make an impact on the leaderboard. Still, at the same time, she's wanting to win this game to continue to climb up the ranks and make it to the final tournament without having to go into the last chance qualifier. At the same time, Ricky, brand new to the league, trying to make his presence and get his first win under his belt and be able to prove that he has what it takes to climb up the leaderboards all the same. So who then is going to take this match? Well, let's go ahead and find out now. All right, so it looks like they are starting, and we got a Inked Snake Yesterday2morrow opting to go first as a Chernobog's Followers comes out to play. Now, at the same time, she'll be able to quest it and have the option to be able to banish it to be able to draw a card. So depending what her opponent does, depends on if she will actually banish it or continue to try to get the lore gain and ultimately continue to get closer to that coveted 20. Now, at the same time, Ricky is going to be going second. That's a little bit difficult, especially going against an Amethyst Steel deck. The difficult thing that you got to be mindful of is that Foxes can come out really at any time. But Owen looks like is going to be opting to just banish it away with a Fire the Cannons, dealing 2 damage to the Chernobog Followers. And I mean, hey, you might not be able to develop your board, but you're able to stop your opponent from being able to draw a card and also gain a lore, which can be a pretty big difference maker here. Now, of course, this is going to be a big board presence here. Oh, and it looks like it was Amethyst Steel. My fault. Wrong call. But Amethyst Steel is going to be on the board today. And it's going to be a very interesting matchup here because it looks like normally when you are playing, the captain or the first mate here, that Mr. Arrow, that you are going on more of an aggro build. And the biggest thing here is that Mr. Arrow is going to be evasive as well, which makes him a lot harder to hit, especially when he's questing for 2. It's like at the same time, do you almost wish that you were, saving your Fire the Cannons? I mean, at the same time, evasive is just going to be so difficult to be able to take out with a Sapphire Steel deck. But at least he was able to get some card draw with the popsicle coming out onto the board, but at the same time, the board presence is going to be a little bit of a struggle for Ricky, and unless he's able to start getting ahead, Yesterday2morrow could very well be playing 3 cards or, 2 cards out with 3 ink on the board. And it looks like the 2 ink for a Smee and a 1 ink for the Broom coming out on the board, and a quest for 2. She is on the board first. And I mean, this is a very, very dangerous thing because at the same time, Broom will be able to quest for 1. And then once you play another character out onto the board, you can banish the Broom to be able to draw 1 card. So, I mean, at least on the plus side, Ricky's going to be able to have 7 cards in hand, which is going to be good for him to at least have options on what he can possibly do to get back into this game. But when your opponent has 3 characters out on their board, this is going to be a very difficult thing for them to have to try to get back into this game, especially because the further that Amethyst starts to get ahead, the more that it can really start to be aggressive here and really continue to control the board. You also have to keep in mind that they might even have some Zeuses, they might have some strengths of a Raging Fire. Things that as Ricky starts to build up his board, that Yesterday2morrow can use to then get ahead. Oh, and it looks like a Mr. Arrow is going to be inked as well. And what is he potentially going to play here? He did a Sail the Azurite Sea, which was a great move there, being able to then put down 2 more. And then looks like he's going to be going 2 to be able to play a Calhoun, which can be a very great answer for this kind of matchup. Now, of course, that's not going to be able to take out the Mr. Arrow by any means, but I mean, being able to take out potentially the Smee and gain 2, or even you're not going to take out the Broom in this case, but still, if you could, that would be a great option. Again, though, they're just going to quest for 5, going up to 7. And then they're going to continue to try to get some good presence here. To fire the cannons on the Calhoun to destroy it. Now, does that hurt? And yes, I do think that does hurt a little bit. That's a lot of utility to be able to take out a Calhoun. But at the same time, your opponent is struggling to get a board presence. Smee's taking a damage because Mr. Arrow is not a captain. He's only a first mate. Does he resent that? Probably. But at the same time, having 3 characters out onto the board to your opponent's 0 is a very difficult thing to have to face. Now, at the same time, Ricky could have up to 5 ink to be able to play with this turn, and he's tapping 3 of that to be able to play a Let the Storm Rage on to take out the Smee and draw a card. At the same time, this is a very difficult thing because the longer that Ricky, almost prolongs setting up his board, this is going to be a very difficult thing for him to have to, to be able to get back into this game. I mean, hey, this is a great start, though. The Storm and the Fire the Cannons, that's a great start, at least. Only the Mr. Arrow back in the hand. And so, I mean, this is also a very interesting thought process by Ricky, where he opted to take out the Broom instead of Mr. Arrow. Now, it makes me think Mr. Arrow might be a 2-3. That's going to be something that I might need to look up on TCG Player, because I'm not 100% sure of Mr. Arrow's stats. But at the same time, there's a Maleficent coming out. It is only a 1-1, but it is able to quest for 2. And so that's a big deal right there. And so, yeah, it looks like the Mr. Arrow is a 1-2. So he'd opted to then go ahead and get the stopping the card draw instead of the 2 lore. But at the same time, when you're already at 9, you're threatening to go to, 13 on the following turn with the Maleficent and the Mr. Arrow. Woo, that's a very difficult thing to have to deal with. But again, on the removal, just really taking out anything that Yesterday2morrow is putting out. But at the same time, it's 9-0. Yesterday2morrow has 3 ink to plan around with, and she probably is going to be playing, a Gantu or things like that. But necessarily at this point in the game, that's just going to become ink. But at the same time, if you start top decking that, that's just going to slow you down a lot. Now, of course, Ricky, a lot of removal there. Great job being able to control the board. Looks like he's going to be going in for a Tipo and a Mickey on another Sail the Azurite Sea. And this is kind of the difficult thing because Sapphire Steel has 2 kinds of builds that you can go about with this deck. You can go for the ramp and control build, or you can opt for more of the ward and aggro build. And it looks like in this case that he is going for the ramp build, which when you are going second, that can be very difficult to have to deal with. But I mean, at the same time, Yesterday2morrow just, kind of almost went away and passed after playing another Maleficent out onto the board and questing for 2. Very quick turn. But luckily this deck is very simple, so it's not like you have to tank for a long time wondering what you have to do, wondering what options you even have in this gameplay, It's pretty straightforward, especially when your opponent has nothing out. And even so, you're almost hoping that your opponent does have nothing out. But it looks like the Hiram's going to be coming down onto the board, drawing 2 more cards. And with 3 ink left, there's a little bit that he might be able to do. And it looks like he's going to tap the 2 ink to be able to play 3 ink. Never mind. To play. Oh, nice. So he gets a little bit more of a board presence. Might be able to quest for a little bit. Might be able to even do some damage. But I mean, not a lot of damage. Not necessarily looking for board presence with that character in particular. But it still could take out the Maleficent and slow down, Yesterday2morrow a little bit more. I mean, but she's doing really good at maintaining the aggro. At the same time, this is still pretty slow. And another Fire the Cannons! But at the same time, Ricky's been having such insane card draw that he's been able to at least maintain the removal to be able to control her game. Otherwise, this would have been over probably a long time ago. So, I mean, the removal is absolutely clutch right now in this game. And the dangerous part, Ricky's board is now built. He's got 8 ink to be able to play with. And right now, Yesterday2morrow has 1 card in hand after this, but is at 13 to Ricky's 0. And he's going to need to start doing things to get onto this board. And so I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to do to get back into this game. This is a difficult situation being down 13. Your opponent only needs 7 to be able to win the game. Meanwhile, you need the entire 20. I do math sometimes, guys. Don't doubt. Anyway, but with that though, this is a very difficult thing for him to have to encounter, because the Mr. Arrow is putting Ricky on clock, and he's used all of his removal for anything else except for the Mr. Arrow. But I don't believe Mr. Arrow has ward. It only has evasive, yeah, or it has resist. So that's a very difficult thing to have to deal with. And unfortunately, he hasn't had a lot of ability to be able to get that board presence going, which is a very difficult thing to have to deal with. And so you're wondering, he's able to build up his board. He's got a good board presence going for him, but is it too little too late? So here we go. He's exerting 1 to gain 2. Hiram will go ahead and gain 1, and he's going to pass a 10 lore deficit. Mr. Arrow coming in absolute clutch with the resist so far. I mean, that's making, the fire the cannons to let the storm rage on, only do 1 damage. That's difficult to have to deal with. And so she's going to go ahead and quest and pop to draw a card, adding another card in hand. So now she's at 3 cards in hand. Mr. Arrow is going to be able to also get her to 16. So it's going to be a very difficult board to have to deal with. And now with 3 ink in play, she's going to be tapping all 3 to be able to play a fox, bouncing back the arrow to take care of. Yeah, okay. It's trying to slow him down even further. Now at the same time, next turn, she might not be able to do much, but oh, there goes a Chernobog follower. And this is something that's going to be really interesting too, because we've already seen Ricky have a ton of removal in his game so far. And so the odds of him having more removal is getting less and less likely, meaning that the Chernobog follower is going to be potentially safe. At the same time, if he is able to take that out, she has 1 card in hand is all. And only 4 ink on the board. And so at the same time, we see another Jim Hawkins coming out. And a questing all around. Can the Jim Hawkins quest? Did it just come out? I don't know. Oh, well. We'll take a look at that later. But anyway, with that being said, guys, we do have the ability to go and play a Smee. She is going to then quest for 1, go to 17. Now, is she going to pop? Yep. And draw a card. Now she has 2 ink left to be able to work with. She might even be able to ink something and play an additional character. But nope, looks like she's keeping her hand full, keeping the options and what she has in hand to herself. But still, 7 to 17. I mean, Ricky's climbing slowly but surely, but is it too little too late? I mean, the difficult thing is, yeah, he's done a great job at building up the board. But at the same time, Smee, if he's unable to remove it, then that very well means that she could have a goat, she could have a rose, and just instantly win the game. And so he can quest for everything. That's great and all, but that's not giving him a lot of options. So the Fortosphere is going to be popped, going to draw 2 cards, try to get a few more options. But this is still a very difficult situation for Ricky to find himself in, and this is going to be a thing that they need to keep in mind as they continue to play this game. And so we will wait to see how this will go. I'm a little intimidated right here. This is a dangerous board and a difficult situation for them to have to deal with. It's like, what answers does Ricky have here? So it looks like a not too shabby, a Wreck-It Ralph coming out onto the battlefield, and then a quest for everything. Now at the same time going to 11. I mean, he's technically almost threatening game. You're able to destroy locations? I think with Wreck-It Ralph, it's location or items. Pretty sure it's items though. Actually just check. I have the card. But anyway, this is a big deal because right now, if she has anything, a goat or anything, then she will be able to just end the game right here after questing. And so there's a goat for ink, 3 ink for a Lawrence, and then quest for 2. Ooh, 19. No goat in hand. And so that's a little interesting. All right, so Wreck-It Ralph. When the quest, you may banish chosen item and gain 2 for a total of 5. So if he has a Photosphere or anything in hand, ooh, that's going to be game right then and there. But that's going to be the difficult part. He needs that 1 card in hand to be able to do that kind of move and to ultimately secure the game. Is it enough? At the same time, I almost don't think so. I think it's going to be too little, too late here as well. So it's going to be a wait and see. I mean, he has all the ink. He has pretty much the ability to play anything in his deck and more. But does he have really anything to play? So, I mean, he's able to draw one off of the Sail the Azurite Sea. But it's like, it seems like he's just 1 turn too late to the game. And might not be able to secure this game 1 win. I mean, yeah, he's going to be able to take out this me. That's great. And he's going to be able to quest for a good amount. But this matchup right now is just not being favorable for him at all. In the sense of being able to, clear the board and ultimately win the game. I mean, he's able to go up to, 14, 15, maybe even 16, 17. Yeah. So close. If he had 1 more turn, he would have been able to do it. That Mr. Arrow just absolutely came in for game 1 for Yesterday Tomorrow as she goes ahead and wins the first game. Ricky's going to go ahead and go with a Mr. Arrow for ink and go for a Vitalisphere to add 1 card. Now it's like, is that an interesting choice? Because, last game we saw that, the Mr. Arrow with his resist was able to do a lot of work. And so in this case, Yesterday Tomorrow is going to be going for her ink and setting up the board with a Maleficent. Now, last game we saw how much board presence Ricky was able to have, or lack of board presence in the beginning, but removal is what I meant to say. He had a plethora of removal with Let the Storm Rage On, the Fire the Cannons. That seems like all he was playing for the first 3, 4, 5 rounds. So there's a Donald Duck going out for ink. Going to be able to ink and go for a Jim Hawkins, trying to get that board presence early. Now, interesting though, no removal. And I mean, at the same time, the Maleficent's easy enough to take out anyway, but still, the gaining of the 2 lore is pretty difficult to have to deal with. Still, Ricky's still going to be hoping that he's going to be able to at least get some ramp going for him, but at the same time, right now, we're seeing Yesterday Tomorrow going wide as turn 2. She has 3 characters out on board. That's scary because, yeah, she very well could go ahead and quest with the Chernobog followers, quest with the Diablo. She's okay with losing the Diablo to an attack. Now, the one thing that's really nice about your opponent choosing to attack into something that's already quested and that's also going to get you a +1 on card draw is that you are then going to be able to stop them from gaining lore on whatever that character was that was attacking. So essentially, yeah, you're gaining a little bit by them attacking into the Diablo. But also, if you don't, you're almost hurting them. Now, this is interesting. The Jim Hawkins shift, turn 3, he's able to deal 1 damage to anything, to his heart's desire. And smart choice on the Chernobog right there. That is a great board clear. And then able to take out the Maleficent. At the same time, Ricky is going to be wanting to try to take care of her board for as long as possible to then be able to stop her from being able to, hopefully not draw a ton of cards. If he can mitigate her card draw and have her just run out of cards, then he might be able to actually take this game too. It's going to be a very difficult situation for him if she is able to continue the board presence and he is going to be unable to find the answers. But at the same time, stopping her card draw with the Chernobog followers was an absolutely excellent play, and then taking out the Maleficent is awesome. At the same time, though, this is going to be a great job on being able to try to continue to get board presence going. Yesterday Tomorrow is going to be going for 3, going for a Fox, banishing, and taking care of the Jim Hawkins here with a trade. Now, great turn. Way to get that taken care of. At the same time, your opponent right now, Ricky, is going to be having a couple of cards in hand. He has 14 to be able to play with. We haven't seen Ricky ramp very well yet, which is, unfortunate. That's a very difficult thing to have to deal with. We'll see what he is then able to do. Because this is just going to be a very difficult thing for him to have to deal with. This is going to be a very telling turn. If he's going to be able to at least develop his board well enough that he's going to get things taken care of, that's going to be absolutely great. But at the same time, if he's unable to start his board presence, then this game is just probably going to go further and further over into Yesterday's Tomorrow's favor, because she's just going to be able to continue to build up her board and get everything done and taken care of. And so you just got to be so careful about going about that. It's really going to be whoever can build up the board and maintain that. And Calhoun, though, is going to be a great start. Anything that Yesterday Tomorrow then quests with is going to be taken out, and that's going to be a really nice move. Okay, there's a Diablo. Not bad, not bad. Okay, the Diablo's coming out. Then we're going to be seeing a 3-4. A smash going down on the Calhoun, dealing the 2 damage needed even with the resist and being able to take her out. So, I mean, again, the board presence is going to be absolutely vital, and at the same time, this is a little scary. We have not seen the card draw really coming from Ricky, so he's only top decking, and that's about it. So, I mean, this is going to be a big turn for Yesterday Tomorrow. Again, though, Ricky, without the board presence, hasn't inked either, so that's going to be... Let's see what they're able to do. I mean, he's tanking here. This is a very difficult situation. This is a big turn for him. He has items out on the board, which is great. So this is going to be really interesting. But this is just so difficult of a situation to have to deal with. So there's the 5th ink, finally. There we go. And then going in and playing a Hercules. Okay. So this isn't half bad. This is good. This is good. So we'll see what's going to end up happening. Oh, but Yesterday Tomorrow, I mean, she only has a Diablo out on board. She has a couple cards in hand, which is helpful. She's going to be inking a Fox. That's interesting. Going up to 5. Going to be going 2 for a Calhoun of her own. And a 2 for a Doc, drawing 2 cards. That's some good arsenal. And if she ends up drawing a 1-drop, which, yeah, she does, it's another Maleficent. So, I mean, that's a great board presence. Being able to rebuild her board and get things moving. Not too shabby at all. Now, at the same time, this has been kind of a long game. You know, there hasn't been a whole lot of, lore gain, really. It's been just they've been shutting down each other's boards more often than not, and that can be a very difficult thing to have to deal with. So, but this again is going to be coming down to Yesterday Tomorrow, and it'll be really interesting to see what they are then able to do. And yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Now there's the ink, or there's the 4 ink being exerted. What is he going to play? And he's done the Sail the Azurite Seas. But again, it's like he's getting the card draw when he needs the card draw, but at the same time, he's missing out on getting a good board presence. I mean, a Calhoun is a great start at least, but I mean, the tough part is you're going to be attacking into the Diablo. You're taking out 1, but they're able to draw the card. And they will have 4 cards in hand to be able to work with us. So, I mean, this is just a very difficult situation for him to find himself in. It's tough. It's really tough here. Okay, so I mean, what are they going to be able to do here? Now, Yesterday Tomorrow has the board presence, is going to be able to get a lot of action going their way. Looks like the Doc is going to be attacking in. Not necessarily perishing. Thought so, but no, it's only 2 damage. And then the Calhoun is going to be able to finish off the Herc and gain 2. And that's going to be really nice. Now, at the same time, it's like, do you want to risk the dealing with the Calhoun, giving your opponent the 2 lore to be able to get things going? I mean, we see that Yesterday Tomorrow is still questing, which is great, but at the same time, hasn't used any ink yet. And there's 3 for a Fox coming out, bouncing back the Maleficent. The Maleficent could then very well be replayed to quest for another 2 on the following turn, and that's exactly what's going to be happening. Great turn right there. All right. So with that being said, though, this is a very difficult board for her to have to, or for Ricky to have to deal with here. I mean, he's going to do a great job at least removing the Doc, gaining 2, but at the same time, the Fox will happily trade into a Calhoun, stopping your opponent from gaining 2 lore, and then you being able to gain 4, going up to 13. You know, that's not going to be bad at all. But this is so difficult. It's like, what are you going to be able to do in this situation to get back into this game? The deficit of 5, the lack of board presence, you're drawing a lot of cards, you're doing a lot of things, but you're not, or I necessarily wouldn't say you're doing a lot of things. I mean, but the board presence, it just feels like in Ricky's deck is lacking here, unfortunately. And it's really sad to see just because, you know, he has the ability to build up his board, his ramp, and everything, and he's playing things, but they're just not quite making an impact against a more aggro deck. And especially on Yesterday Tomorrow, this is a lot slower of a game for Yesterday Tomorrow, but she's still getting further and further ahead. And so there's a Calhoun coming out again. The Calhoun will take out the Calhoun, gain 2, and you're still going to have the presence of the Fox and the Calhoun on the following turn as well. And so, I mean, this is just going to be really difficult because, I mean, you know, if Ricky wants, could take out one thing, but, you know, is it too little, too late, especially because the Calhoun can gain 2? Oh, and there is another 2 lore gain right there. And a pass. No cards in hand, though, for Yesterday Tomorrow. She is purely top decking, but at the same time, with a complete board presence of 4 characters, this is going to be a great way to threaten the end of the game. You're really hoping that Ricky has some good removal here. You know, starting off a little bit with some card draw with the Vitalosphere, or not the Fortisphere, same thing. But, and being able to play a Mickey. Ugh. You like that in the beginning. Maybe. That's difficult. I mean, Hiram's going to still be able to pop and draw 2. That's good. And that'll at least put you at 5 and get you some options. Maleficent's going to be taken out. That's good. But at the same time, it's like if anything comes out, I mean, you know, the Calhoun will be able to gain 2 if it attacked into the Hiram. And yeah, she's just going to quest for 3 and get to the 20. So there we go. Yesterday Tomorrow ended up taking the match against Ricky and winning game 2. All right, well, that was an interesting showing from an Amethyst Steel aggro deck versus a, Sapphire Steel. And Sapphire Steel is a really interesting play because it can be a very powerful deck. But right now it feels like it's hitting more into the tier 2 meta right about now. Still, at the same time, we saw Yesterday Tomorrow play a little bit more of an unorthodox style of deck that we haven't been really seeing with the Amethyst Steel, and still being able to play really well. Unfortunately, Ricky, though, was unable to really make much of a board presence against such an aggro deck, although in game 1 he did an absolutely great job facing down and going against, the board presence that Yesterday Tomorrow had. Unfortunately, though, in so many ways, it was too little too late, and that kind of ended up being Ricky's detriment. But at the same time, Yesterday Tomorrow managed to take the first 2 games, and an absolutely great showing of that it was. So with that, guys, we are going to be going till next time, and be sure to go ahead and like and subscribe here, because we try to do some good matches every single day, as well as regular Lorcana content. So feel free to. And until next time, guys, have a good one.